Thin privilege. Now, it's not a mythical creature or something made up. If you're thin, you have a certain privilege.
She got me. I thought about this for a long time and I concluded there's just nothing I could think of to respond to this. Not at first anyway. So the fat movement has gotten so big now that being normal size is considered a privilege. To be able to do ordinary things is considered a privilege. The bottom line here is, when fat people are not motivated to lose weight and be healthy, when they have no desire for a healthy lifestyle change, when every day they choose the easy way out, they will proceed to target everyone else and declare that others are privileged. It's always everyone else, not them.
So everyday tasks that a thinner person can take for granted. It can leave a plus-size person like myself feel full of anxiety, burden, and upset.
Everyday tasks thin people take for granted? That is such a ridiculous statement. Normalcy is taken for granted.
And feeling as though they don't belong and don't deserve a place in the earth.
That's a delusional statement. The only people saying that there's no place for you on the earth are people like you. I have never heard someone say there's no place for fat people on the earth.
So, public transport. What a nightmare for plus-size people. Just think, can you sit in a seat and not be met with sighs, huffing, puffing, and someone squirming in the seat next to you, making you feel uncomfortable and knowing that they don't want you there?
The reason standard size seating exists on buses, planes, and cars is because there's a standard size on this planet. It's a general size called average. Anything above or below that is, I don't know, not average. This average size anything has existed since the dawn of inventions. And now, in these past short years, after thousands and thousands of years of standard sizing and standard everything really, it's a privilege to be standard.
Shopping, can you go into 99.9% of the high street and shop, try on and take an outfit away that very same day and not actually being able to go and enjoy the experience of shopping? Grabbing something to eat, just think, can you pop into a bakery, pick up a donut and sit there and then enjoy it and not feel that you'd be met with stares or comment, I cannot do that?
Okay, I'll give her this one. There are some real jerks out there who decide to pick on people who are bigger or fat when they're out eating. So I want to take this moment to say that bullying fat people is not okay. We don't know if they have just recently lost some weight and are on their way to losing more weight, or if they started some medications for a health condition which made them gain weight, or maybe they're out with family and friends and just want to enjoy a moment in a restaurant and then they get gawked at and made fun of. That is not okay. I don't care what problem anyone has, you don't make fun of people. But the moment when all bets are off is when someone starts promoting fat as the new healthy, happy, and best. Then it becomes a problem and people will speak up, which is the case of this thin privilege fat movement thing. Because historically this was never heard of or existed, Urban Dictionary took in some definitions people came up for thin privilege, and they are actually pretty good. This one says it's the concept where overweight and obese Tumblr users whine about how being fat is equal to the years of oppression similar to racism. More accurately, an ongoing game of sour grapes wherein those too lazy to change themselves will instead blame society for the fact that they're missing out on all the best parts of life. Many proponents of thin privilege also make claims that there are no adverse effects of being extremely overweight or obese. There's no real definition for it because it's ridiculous. Apparently, Cora Harrington started this whole idea of thin privilege. And if you do your research on thin privilege, anything that you find will be in really dumb magazines like Cosmopolitan or something feminist. You won't find it on serious sites that have real things to say. Cora Harrington's concept on thin privilege is the idea that society rewards lean people with special treatment. She calls this a phenomena, which apparently makes this the Twilight Zone. She tries to justify it by further saying, once again, all thin privilege means is that your life isn't made more difficult because of your weight. It means you aren't defined things like pay raises, healthcare, and airline seats because of your weight. Well, stating the obvious, Cora Harrington, in healthcare, when you are obese, you have more risk factors. If your health gets in the way of your job, you're not getting a pay raise. If any place has to accommodate seating, it'll cost extra. She further goes on to say that you are not targeted for being thin. It means your weight/body type are seen as normal. And she puts that in quotation marks as if it's something horrific. Well, Cora Harrington, there is a norm in society. There is a standard. People are not forcing others to meet that standard, but there is a generalization. It's been there since the beginning of time, and only now suddenly people want to change it. As if that's not enough, here's a thin privilege checklist. Those of you who are thin, check your privilege at the door. Of course, this came from a feminist magazine, so it can't be taken seriously at all. But you have thin privilege if you meet these. You're privileged if you're not assumed to be unhealthy just because of your size. Your health insurance rates are not higher than everyone else's. Airlines won't charge you extra to fly. You don't receive suggestions from your friends and family to join Weight Watchers or any other weight loss program. The biggest lie here is number 19. You're more likely to get a raise or promotion at work than someone who is fat. I would like to see an example of that because I have seen people who are overweight who have been given raises and good positions. It depends on the job itself. It's so ridiculous to even put that on here. In this article, this writer decides to defend thin privilege as a real thing by using herself as an example. Oh, the struggles that a thin person has and the weight of thinness that they cannot bear. This is what she believes gives her thin privilege. Being able to walk down the street in shorts and a vest in hot weather without worrying about someone making a cruel comment is thin privilege. To me, it's just walking down the street. I am not consciously aware at every moment of my life that I am benefiting from thin privilege. Wait, but she decides to really tug at our heartstrings by saying, and before you say that healthier people deserve to have an advantage, it's worth pointing out that it's often got very little to do with being a healthy body shape. My BMI generally hovers around the underweight mark. I'm cold all the time and I have shockingly low upper body strength. I'm pretty damn unhealthy actually. This is the worst example that she can ever use. There are two extremes here, too fat or too skinny. This girl has taken it upon herself to show the world that thin privilege is a horrible, horrible thing, and uses her unhealthy example to show us the horrors. Although I'm sure a little bit of this targets severely underweight people, thin privilege targets general standard size. She foolishly continues, I experience white privilege every day, able-bodied privilege, as well as class and financial privilege. They're not always easy to acknowledge, and in the past I've complained at length about being skint and not having an upper class advantage. But I have a university education, and I've always earned enough to never have to worry about not being able to pay my rent. So I'm undeniably privileged in those areas, even when I feel like I'm not. So before you scoff at the mere idea of thin privilege, try putting yourself in someone else's shoes and comparing your life experiences. You'll find all kinds of little and big ways in which your life has been easier. So this university-educated skinny mini believes that an average weight range gives average weight ranged people the ability to give a normal life, and that is thin privilege. This post says, I'm furious. I felt tired constantly for a long time. When I've told doctors this, they've just shrugged it off and said if I exercise more and lose weight, I'd have more energy. But if I don't have the energy to get through my day-to-day life without a massive struggle, then how am I supposed to find the energy to work out? Well, this sounds to me like it's a motivation problem, and she pretty much just admitted this, or he. The post goes on to say that some tests were done and found out that there were vitamin and mineral deficiencies. Where do you get your vitamins and minerals? From the food you eat. Well, what kind of food are you eating, I wonder? Then at the end of the post, it says doctors need to stop assuming everything fat people are suffering from is caused by and can be cured by losing weight. It's not that everything fat people are suffering from is caused by and can be cured by losing weight. It's that most things fat people are suffering from is caused by and can be cured by losing weight. When your organs are no longer being suffocated by visceral fat, which is dangerous and encompasses itself around the organs, and when your glucose starts getting regulated because you have lost the weight, your body will start to function normally. Deficiencies come from eating bad food or not enough of the right types of food. I found this article on Live Science, and it's about why people find thinner people more attractive. One thing they point out here is that doctors have known for many years that not everyone who is overweight is unhealthy. And this is not to say very overweight, obese, or morbidly obese. This is just slightly above average. This is the BMI chart, and those of you who have seen BuzzFeed's final take on the BMI chart, my next video will be once again to correct them on the half-truths they are telling. But notice this, there is not one size here that's right, it's a range. And it's a pretty decent range, so you can be a little overweight. That's not wrong. In fact, a little bit of fat was considered a good thing, especially back during the Renaissance, like in this picture. If you see most of the Renaissance paintings, you will see guys and girls who are just a little bit chubby. Of course, the Mona Lisa and this one, that's actually okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a little bit of fat, not a lot. There's no obesity here or morbid obesity. Going back to live science, I like that they were blunt in saying in this paragraph that while the empowering messages of the fat movement have been taking off, the truth is that the effort has failed. And yes, there is the other extreme of being too thin, which is being underweight. But the bottom line is thin will always be in, according to live science. The most obvious reason is that it's wired in us, and you can't change what someone feels. But live science says supply and demand. This is pretty easy to grasp. Things that are rare, whether diamonds, Picassos, or people with extraordinary sports abilities, tend to be more highly valued than things that are common. In our culture and in many others around the world, the vast majority of people are overweight or obese. Because the average person is overweight, thinner people are by definition rarer and therefore more in demand, and the fatter our country gets, the more valued thin people will be, based on body shape alone. This isn't a value judgment of worth, it's basic economics. Then there's the evolutionary standpoint. At one point in our evolution, people who were heavier than average were prized as mates, clearly having access to food and resources. That is no longer true, and today obesity is instead a strong predictor of health problems. The person of normal weight is on average healthier than his or her overweight counterpart. But it goes to the other extreme too. Note that this bias also works against very thin people. Men are less attracted to unhealthy thin women for the same reason. Of course, body shape is only one factor of many, and most overweight people find happiness and love. Being thin is no guarantee of being happy, attractive, or healthy, but like it or not, there is and always will be an advantage to being thin. So which one is more attractive? This one, classy, average weight, or this one? This one, another model who is not extremely skinny but is definitely not obese. She's just a little bit on the plus side, and she looks good. Or this one. BuzzFeed took it upon themselves to ruin everything as usual and came up with this article. Plus size women recreated a bunch of ads to prove the fashion industry wrong. They proved themselves wrong. Which one looks better? Left or right? The top one or the bottom one? Left or right? I would definitely go with the left because she looks more natural as opposed to the pink hair and the yellow spotted skirt. The lipstick looks better. She just overall looks better, natural, and more fashionable. Top one or the bottom one? Left or right? If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment below and give me a thumbs up. Also, check out my Fat Activists Will Hate Me video. I go over all the things that fat activists cringe over. It's detailed and full of trigger warnings.
Educate yourself!